So we're class 204 of the Golden Doves on page 124. Rabbi Yosef ibn Aknin reports that the most prestigious authorities in the Orient among the Sephardi Hachamim and in the Iberian Peninsula would consistently consult with Christian scholars on the meaning of scriptures. That's interesting. So let's say there's a word. No, we want to know the etymology of a word, right? The lexical meaning of a word that you can consult with a Christian scholar, for the reason that the Hachamim did, right? For the reason that doesn't have to do with the semantics. We're not asking them for the semantics. We're asking them what is the scientific or etymological origin of the word, right? And so on. That's fine. For instance, Ha'ayeh Gaon, the most illustrious authority of his time, would consult with the head of the Syrian church on scriptural matters. That's very interesting. It is noteworthy that these consultations concern only the sharah, never the ta'awil, because of course the ta'awil requires instruction, and Am Yisrael received the masoret and the ta'awil of the pesukim. So while I can go to a university and perhaps a professor will tell me this word is related to the Akkadian word, whatever, to the Ugaritic word, whatever. And that's fine. Again, these are scientific matters. These are matters of understanding the etymology of words. And in that regard, if a person is an expert in a particular language or in Hebrew or in Aramaic, and he has some insight, we would be interested in hearing the insight. That does not impact the ta'awil. That only has to do with the sharah. The court's right to apply derasha to the text of contracts and the right to apply to the Torah are intimately connected with each other, right? I think we already discussed that matter, the connection between doing derasha on the shetar and doing derasha on the Torah shebichtav. This may be seen in the fact that according to rabbinic tradition, Hillel, the first to apply derasha to scripture, was also the first to apply derasha to leshon hediot. That's very interesting, right? So the earliest derasha we have is Hillel HaZaken, and he's also the first one to do derasha on leshon hediot in a contract. Let me see what the footnote is here. Footnote 14 is the Makor Tosefta Ketuvot. Okay. Continuing. Characteristically, the Leshon Hediot may be subject to derasha even when, in effect, it was not put down in writing. That's interesting. So even if you didn't actually write it, there's no written text of the contract, let's say, or of the agreement, let's say. And yet, you would apply derasha in some cases, not in all cases, as if although it was a written text. Writing is not merely the actual inscription of a text, but a legal status. Remember, we said that a written text is not just whether it was physically written or not, but a written text has to do with the particular legal status of the text. The Leshon Hediot are considered an institution of the court, said Ha'ayeh Gaon. Therefore, even if they were not put down in writing, they must be considered as written, right? For example, the ketuvah. The ketuvah, even if husband doesn't sign a ketuvah for his wife, but the status of the ketuvah, which is takanat hachamim, has the status of a written document. The same applies to scripture, which whether written or not retains the status of the written law. If I say the Kiryat Shema B'al Peh, it's still the written text it's still a written text, right? The oral law pertains to semiotics. It may not be interpreted. Derasha is explicitly excluded. That's one of the differences between Torah shebichtav, for which you make derasha, and Torah shebe'al peh, for which you don't make derasha. So the oral law is a semiotic system in the sense that you either understand the Mishnah or you don't understand the Mishnah. You need ta'awil to understand the Mishnah, yes, but there's no derasha on the Mishnah. You're not going to start making derashot, gezer hashava, kal v'chomer, binyan av on the words. You must understand the words properly and correctly, right? But that proper, correct interpretation is not subject to derasha, unlike the pesukim. where you can, in addition to the proper correct meaning of the words, you can make derashot on the words. Because it is a purely semiotic composition, the text of the oral law excludes its own frame of reference and the elements by which it can be internally expounded. Meaning, you need somebody from the outside to tell you what the Mishnah is talking about. If you don't have somebody from the outside telling you what the Mishnah is talking about, you cannot understand it. There is no internal frame of reference, right? It excludes its own frame of reference. Accordingly, it is categorically impossible to discover the meaning of this literature from the text itself, right? So it's semiotic. The same way, what does the term Yankee go home mean? I mean, you either understand it, make America great again. That's a good example, Donald Trump, MAGA. MAGA, what does MAGA mean? You either understand it or you don't. There's nothing in the word MAGA that explains the word MAGA, right? You just need to understand the word MAGA, or you don't need to, or you don't understand it, right? As in any semiotic system. As noted earlier, the sense of the oral law is known through talqin, instruction. I think I used the word ta'wil before, and I actually used the word talqin, right? Talqin means instruction, and I probably misspoke. Okay. Therefore, the exposition of oral law does not follow standard literary canons. It doesn't. Many times you have a Mishnah, and the meaning of the Mishnah, I don't want to say is disconnected from the words in the Mishnah, but it's almost like, well, if somebody didn't tell me this is what it means, I would never have known what the Mishnah means. Right? So you need talqin, somebody from the outside instructing you. Therefore, the exposition of oral law does not follow standard literary canons. Referring to the Talmudic explanations of the Mishnah, Maimonides wrote, the Talmud expounds the Mishnah in a way that no one can ever arrive at through common logic. Sometimes it applies to it, the Talmud applies to the Mishnah, principles not implicitly contained in the text, and ascertains that a particular Mishnah was formulated on the basis of this or that aspect, right? And many times you have the Mishnah, and you need to really understand it correctly. You need the Gemara to explain what the Mishnah is talking about. Or that a particular Mishnah has omitted words, and the meaning of the omission is so and so, or that a particular Mishnah stems from Rabbi X, and he believes so and so, right? It's Mishnah, this Mishnah is Setam Rabbi Meir or Rabbi Yosef, right? Furthermore, in the course of its exposition, the Talmud adds to its text, subtracts from it, and explains its causes, right? So we're going to be skipping to page 126 for the next class. It is noteworthy that Derasha and Mesirah are the key elements or the key terms used by the rabbis to describe the instruction of Maaseh Bereshit and Maaseh Merkavah. That will be the next class.